Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is looking at the games that Virgo plays. Virgo is a mutable earth sign. It's ruled by Mercury, so people who are Virgos will tend to display a strong intellect. But they have something that I think a lot of people are aware of, and that is a critical nature. I have the moon in Virgo, and these videos were intended for the sun signs, but they could certainly apply to people with the moon in these signs. But it's very important to note that this will manifest in people of a lower nature. And of course, all of us from time to time exhibit less than desirable traits, and they may kind of resemble our sun signs or our moon signs in the shadow aspects as well. Nobody is perfect in their actions 100% of the time. But people who are consistently negative will display these kinds of traits. The reason I'm using the word games is because it is a substitute for intimacy, a real relationship. And remember that when we're talking about relationships, we're not just talking about husband and wife, boyfriend and girlfriend, or girlfriend and girlfriend, boyfriend and boyfriend, all types of romantic relationships. We're talking about parent and child, boss and employee. The boss and employee, I have been kind of on the fence about because it really, since it involves money, it's a little bit different. It's not as intimate usually, but friends can be quite close, siblings, that kind of thing. And what that does is it creates a sense of, anxiety in people who have a lot of emotional trauma and they don't know how to handle their feelings. And so they substitute it with manipulative behavior. And some of the games, I don't know if you would classify them as manipulation, but it's like fake. It's not like a real interaction with someone. So there's like an agenda behind it. So I don't know. I think it is kind of manipulation in a sense. But with Virgo, and by the way, there was a book called Games People Play in the 60s. And it described all these different types of games, social games. It was a bestseller. Some of you probably have seen it or read it. Now, with Virgo, I think the number one way that this manifests is because of perfectionism, nothing is ever good enough. So the Virgo person might complain about everything, and because they have a well-developed intellect along with well-developed sensibilities around being able to pay attention to small details, they really might not be making something up. They might be really telling the truth, and they actually might be dissatisfied with a lot of things. And having the moon in Virgo myself, I do find myself evaluating experiences. This, or picking out things that weren't quite right. Like if I'm eating out or something, okay, this is good. This is, you know what I mean? And, there's nothing wrong with just having thoughts about whatever it is that you're doing. But when you're constantly evaluating things, you're not being here now. There's a sense of being apart from your experience and kind of and also having a negative reaction to it if you're criticizing it. So these people will do this towards others. They might never be satisfied with somebody else's response, their behaviors. They may, another extension of this behavior is trying to quote unquote help another person. Like giving them unsolicited advice about a certain thing that they think they need for self-improvement. And, I don't have to say any more about that because that's highly irritating to other people. Other people don't want their friends and family and partners to treat them like they are not good enough as they are in that moment. It makes a person feel unaccepted. And also, it is a form of criticism. It's pointing out flaws in somebody else. It's a different story if somebody is complaining about certain things in their life, let's say complaining about their weight, and the other party says, well, if you eat this, if you do that, and then that person gets angry about it, well, they brought it on themselves because they want to be able to vent, but they don't want somebody else to offer any kind of assistance. It doesn't work that way. You can't do that because unless you really say it ahead of time and say, look, I'm not looking for advice. I just want to vent. But you can't do that too often because then you just come across as the perennial victim and, who doesn't want to actually improve their life. But in general, people are not going to appreciate somebody giving them helpful little hints from Heloise that they didn't ask for. So that kind of thing can be quite annoying. And if you are listening as somebody, I was going to say as a victim of a Virgo person, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. All of these related traits about always picking things apart is really a way for the Virgo person to feel superior, that they're the ones with the best taste. They have the highest standards, blah, blah, blah. Also being grammar Nazis. Well, unfortunately, I do tend to correct grammar online. But when people are doing that all the time, they're trying to, I mean, I don't think that that's what I'm trying to do. I really feel like I want to help somebody so that they don't keep repeating incorrect grammar and then spreading it out to the world. That's why I do it online. But if somebody's doing that constantly in person and other things where they're correcting someone in terms of their facts, getting their facts straight, and doing this excessively, they probably are trying to present themselves as intellectually superior. So it's always about being seen as, it's like know-it-all behavior, being seen as being superior to others. But the truth is, I personally believe that Virgo people are insecure as a whole. And that even in some cases they were criticized mercilessly themselves growing up. And so that heightened their self-consciousness, if that's a word, and then also led them to do the same. So these people also, I think, have difficulty expressing anger only because I feel like the earth signs, along with the air signs, are really not emotional in and of themselves. So their orientation is not towards that kind of display. So, broaching uncomfortable conversations might be intimidating for the average Virgo person. So what they do instead is use sarcasm. And that's passive aggressive. If you're trying to display your hostility through sarcasm, don't think that the other person isn't going to know that you're pissed off at them. And also, it's going to come across really in an ugly manner. It's not going to you're not going to hide this. And it's far better to just be very matter of fact. You don't have to get emotional anyway. You can just state what your issue is and state it very calmly and rationally. I think maybe in some cases Virgo is afraid to assert themselves. And remember too that Virgo can have inner planets in Libra because it's adjacent to Libra. So they may have like Mars in Libra, especially, which is Mars is your anger management skills or how you express anger. Libra does not like to express anger. Libra is ruled by Venus. Mars is the god of war. You see how they're strange bedfellows? They have Mars in Libra. So it's a very awkward experience for people with Libra to have to express displeasure to someone. So they will tend to do so in an indirect way. That's passive aggression. And in terms of love, Venus, sun signs can have Venus in Virgo too, and that will enhance or exacerbate really their tendency to be overly critical of other potential partners to the point where they may not even have any to begin with. I wonder if that's why Virgo is is connected to the Hermit in the tarot. But to me, that's a cover up for inadequacy. To be so picky about partners that nobody is good enough for the person, I think there's a fear lurking underneath that. And they can act like, oh, that person doesn't match up to my standards. But chances are there is insecurity beneath it all. And so that's what I'm basically trying to go with that is that, they try to position themselves as having better taste and a higher intellect and all of this, and, greater discriminatory faculties or something like that. And what that does to other people is it belittles them. It makes them feel like they don't have high enough standards and stuff like that. And it can make somebody not feel good about themselves. I realize, we can choose to buy into that or not. Nobody can make us feel something. I'm just saying that as just how people talk, but I realize that nobody has that power over us, but it's not pleasant. Let's put it that way. So how do you deal with a person like this? Well, first of all, I'm going to say this for every video. Be honest with that person. Be diplomatic, but be honest. And, if I had a friend who was acting like this, I'd say, look, we need to talk, okay? I notice that you do this, that every time I bring up like the latest cafe I've gone to, you have been there and done that. And it's, oh, how could you possibly think that coffee is good? Blah, blah, blah. I know you might think that that's like just a minor thing, but you do this all the time. And it really gives me this feeling that you're trying to put me down and act like I'm, I don't know what I don't have high standards and things like that. And, it doesn't feel good, this type of behavior. Um, do you think that you can just listen to me and not have to judge what I'm saying? Because I guess there's a judgmental quality in all of that, to some degree, you could say. And sometimes, this is like unconscious behavior. I don't think a lot of these games are done. I mean, I think that's why these things are games. They're like coping mechanisms that go way back, and they have become unconscious behavioral patterns that are very much on the negative side. So I don't think that these people are, planning this out in advance, in other words. But it still happens, and it's still something that doesn't feel good to other people. So if you think that there's something worth salvaging in this relationship, then definitely be honest about it, and express your feelings. How that other person reacts will tell you how much they want to keep the relationship going. And, don't be surprised if somebody reacts very, negatively because they're so freaked out that somebody called them on their bad behavior. They might feel very embarrassed and even a little bit ashamed. But when things settle down, if they're still, you know, treating you like you just were, it's like you were at fault for having, the audacity to even ask them not to be like that, then you know where you stand. And you know that that relationship is probably toxic. Okay, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated and was valuable in some way. If you would like a personal reading, the link is below. Take care.